I'll correct you. My name is...
Hi, everybody. Welcome to our 4 o'clock live. I am here today with Richard Weiss. How are you?
Good, great. Glad to be here.
I'm so excited to have you on the show.
Thank you.
You are funny.
Sometimes.
I have researched you, and you are really funny. And I'm so happy and thankful that you decided to come on the show, take your time to be here and be of service, and let everybody hear how funny you are. And
pressure's on now.
And some encouraging words of recovery and being funny, you know, and using that to help us on our journey. So thank you.
Well, you're welcome. I'm glad to be here. And as I say, it's a pleasure to come out here and share my story and maybe tell a few jokes. I'm funny on YouTube. I don't know.
Well, if you're funny on YouTube, you'll be funny here.
We'll find out. They'll let us know, right?
Yeah, they will. So you've traveled all around the world. You've been doing comedy for how long?
Well, I've been doing comedy. I came out in 2006 on an intervention, and my first year sober.
Okay, let's back up.
Okay.
So you came out here from your intervention. So can you tell us what that was?
Sure. I was living in New York City. I worked in a job where there was a lot of drug use and alcohol and outdoors construction.
Okay.
My mom had passed, and then I was like a binger. But when she passed, I started to do more and more, and went into a deep depression. And came out of my living room one day, and there was a guy in a blue suit and a tan, and my father and my sister and son, and they said, "We want you to go away." You know, it was an intervention. And,
wow.
The first thing I did was run.
You did?
I didn't want to go away. I wanted to do it my way. And I said, well, I can do the meetings in New York. And, you know, it hadn't worked. And I kept running. I went to a church. They followed me. And it got pretty nasty where they got police to arrest me for, I don't know why, and had an abusive police officer that said it'd break my kneecaps. And
oh, wow.
I said, okay, I'll go. Wherever you want me to go, I'll go. And they sent me to California, to Riverside. Methamphetamine capital of the world, which probably a good place to go if you want to do meth. But I had been to a rehab before a few years prior when my son was born in '86. I was sober for about a year, and I was working with guys that did a lot of drugs and partying, and I fell back into it. And so coming out here, I thought this was a nice rehab. Aerosmith was there. They had volleyball and great meals. And
I want to go there.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm going to have this little vacation again. When I got to Riverside, it was nothing like that. You know, I had to walk the dogs, and they were pooping. I picked up all the poop. That was my job, and there was no gates. You could run away if you wanted. It was all men. It was a different type. But I think I needed that harder type of rehab to be away from home. I knew if I were to relapse now, I'm done. You know, I have no family, no support here. I don't know anybody, and I would probably go to meth, knowing my behavior if I got high, because it was available out there. And you know, one day at a time, I got sober there, and I met a lot of good friends. And I thought I'd go back to New York and live and it turned out I never went back. I've been here 15 years now. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
And what kind of program has worked for you in your recovery?
I've done a few. I've actually, the AA program, front and center. I got a really good sponsor. Working the steps, which I hadn't done, and working them thoroughly. You know,
thoroughly.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. The fourth step, I cut a lot out. I didn't want to admit stuff, and you know, if you do that, it's really hurting yourself. At this point, I wanted to do whatever they said. You know, and
you had surrendered.
Pretty much, yeah. I was at the point where I knew it was a turning point, you know, and it wasn't going to get better. And, you know, I was not a young man anymore, and my son wasn't talking to me. My family was distant. I was pretty much on my own when I first came out here. So I listened. I listened to guys that had a lot of clean time, and I said, how did you get there? You know, I want to know, what did you do? And I met some good people, and they told me, you know, you get a sponsor, you do the steps, you go to meetings, you help others. There's a lot to it. I mean, it all comes together. And I did church, was the spiritual side. I started going to church, and there was always good people in my life, but they would come in and fall out of my life. But as one fell out, another one would come in, and I guess God was watching out for me. You know, a couple of good friends relapsed, and some of them never came back, but they got me through.
Yeah, I feel that God puts people in your life when you're meant to have them in your life, you know, and whether it's a good experience, a bad experience, a heartbreaking experience. I see you getting emotional, you know, some people that have gone back out or maybe passed, that they teach us something and they leave a bit of them with us each time. And I so appreciate and value all those people. You know, I've had some people in my life that at one point I was like, oh, I wish this person was never in my life. And now I think, wow, now that I've done the work, I can reflect on it and go, but they taught me so much, you know, about myself. And I didn't realize it when I was in that addiction and just being, you know, in that space where I'm not thinking.
You don't see it right away.
You don't see it. Yeah. So, okay. So you've been out here for 15 years. So how did you find comedy? Where did that come from? Well,
I lived in New York. I worked for the telephone company. I went to an open mic one night and I did pretty well in New York, and I had a steady job. I never did it again, but I always had it in the back of my mind to do comedy. And I said I would try it again. But when you're doing cocaine and drinking, I wasn't gonna get up there and do comedy. And that was my, for 20 years or so, I kept doing that. And my first year sober here, I was in a sober living. They said, get a job or do something. So I took a comedy writing course up in Hollywood. And I just wanted to get up one time and prove if I could do it or not. That was the goal. And the class went well. They put me as the final act, I guess, because they thought I was pretty good or whatever. And I did pretty well. I remember pulling the mic out and it fell on the floor. The first second I got it, I go, hey, magic. I just went, and I talked a little bit about recovery early on. I don't know, I just felt, I was a fan of Richard Pryor, and he always spoke of his recovery, and I said, I'm doing the right thing today. Everybody knows, I'm not hiding it from anybody. And I kind of put some jokes from the rehab and the meetings. We always had jokes. Like one joke I did in a meeting, I said, I go to Isolators Anonymous, nobody ever shows up. So I told that in a meeting, I got some laughs. I said, maybe I'll throw that in the act. And I incorporated all that. And so the first set I ever did had a lot of recovery-based comedy in it. And I thought I would do that and be done. And I met people, and it just kind of rolled from there. I started getting offers to do shows and some money, a little bit of money, and it was a passion. And I guess once you're in, you don't get out. And
I think that what you just said, it's a passion. And I feel that when people get sober, unless you find that passion, you're not going to find happiness. A lot of people are going to go back out unless they find that purpose and that passion. With the comedy, how did it help you heal things that you had gone through, grieving, the loss of your mother, your friends that had gone back out? How did comedy help you heal in sobriety?
Yeah, I think my whole life, I always would joke. It was kind of a way to get over pain and stuff. It was a release. Even at bad things we could laugh at, to a point. And the comedy filled that void. It gave me to do something that I loved, and I felt creative. I felt I was making people happy. And there's a creative process of writing your own jokes, and so that filled the void my first year, and a lot of people from my rehab supported me. They'd come to my shows. My sponsor would come to my show. I went back to my rehab and did a monthly show there.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I would bring other comics, and there's a lot of gifts in sobriety.
What did that feel like to go back to your rehab and perform?
The best part is I got to leave, because before I couldn't leave, but it was rewarding. And then some people were pretty beat up. You could tell they weren't even laughing much, and they would tell me, like, this is the first time this guy laughed for the first couple weeks he was here. He just hasn't even shown anything of being happy or an emotion. So I felt I was helping them, and I don't mind giving back. As I say, you got to give back, and it was a rewarding feeling to go there and leave and do what I love,
What do you feel you learned most about yourself doing comedy?
A lot of things. One, comedy, you got to learn to fail sometimes. Sometimes it ain't going to work. You could be feeling bad and whatever. The audience may not be there's all different shows. It's not always going to be 100% on. And while I don't feel I do bad, constantly, there's been shows that that's for whatever reason have not gone well. Hecklers and fights, and you do all different shows when you start. But I learned about myself to accept not succeeding in the way I wanted, and going to the drawing board and try to come back and fix certain jokes. With the PC culture now, I'm not a filthy comic. I'm not very insulting, but some jokes I've done, even where I'm the butt of the joke, it's changed, you know. So I had to kind of rewrite stuff and be sensitive to certain groups because it's changed.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely changed. And I love how you said that you have to be okay with failing. And I think that's so important just in life in general, that we need to be okay with that, to be brave and to keep trying no matter what. And yeah, in comedy, in anything where you got to get up and stand up in front of a bunch of people and try to make them laugh, that's a lot of pressure. So how would you deal with that, with that pressure if it didn't go your way? What were your coping skills? What would you do afterwards to decompress and get rid of that funk that was left on you from the show?
Right. Well, one reason I have a good support group of other comics, and we lean on each other and we talk things over, and they can call me and said I had a little trouble with this crowd, and so we're like a support group. And then two, I said, you know, my life before was so bad. If people don't laugh at a joke, that's small today. It doesn't matter, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not falling off a building or drinking alcohol or whatever I did in my addiction, so that's minor. And sometimes you got to grow by not succeeding. You learn and you go forward, you know.
Absolutely. Is there any ritual that you do before you get up and do your show?
Well, I prepare if I do longer sets. If I'm in a recovery center, I'll probably go over the recovery jokes more. Bars don't want to hear a half-hour recovery jokes. You know, I do all different types of shows. Sometimes it's churches. I'll do cleaner material I'll prepare for. Or I'll play back an old audio where I've done some stuff. That's kind of preparation. I used to rehearse every word and do the mirror thing. I don't do that anymore. I don't know if I got lazy or I just feel that now it's just a couple of PowerPoints in my head and I can go off of that. And I got my dad jokes, my recovery jokes, dating jokes, and I just try to put them in an order depending on whatever show I'm at. And it seemed to work, yeah. Music used to inspire me a little bit, but no real ritual. I just feel the energy from the crowd and
just go with it.
I think if the crowd is receptive, I feed off of that.
Yeah.
And it's like tennis. It goes back and forth.
Yeah. If you didn't do comedy, what would you be doing?
Good question. Drugs.
Okay, well, comedy for life.
I would try to do something creative, writing. I wrote song lyrics. I've done poetry. I always feel like I can create with words. I might do that. I was managing my daughter in music for a while. I liked that scene. I was trying to help her out. She was a great singer, and my son with baseball. I just get into the passion, to get into arts, and I do want to help people, though. I think I'm at the point I want to give back.
Give back, yeah. Speaking of kids, so your kids, what would you say to a parent out there that is struggling with their children, that they've gone down that road, they're starting to use? What would your suggestions be to them?
It's funny you said that, because I was thinking back when I was using, I would try to get money from my dad once in a while, because I got paid good money, but I would go out and so one time I said, Dad, I dropped my partner's radio in the manhole. We worked in manholes. I needed some money to pay him back. He goes, you told me that 2 years ago.
Oh man, yeah.
I said, I gave him the same lame excuse. But I think it's what I'm saying. It's not to enable.
Enable.
And people had enabled me for a while, and I was good at manipulating and playing the victim and whatever I did. And when they didn't enable me anymore, and I came out on the intervention, it was I had to get serious. There was no falling back on anybody, then I got more into the program and did what I had to do. I tried to take shortcuts, and it doesn't work that way. And as I said, I was working. I got to get back to your question. I'm on the ADHD.
No, go. You go ahead.
For their kids, I think you got to love them, but you got to confront them. Somebody actually asked me a few weeks ago. Somebody was having a problem. What would you suggest? And I said, tough love. And try to suggest a program. I had the intervention, which probably saved my life. At the time, I was mad at everybody. I wanted to get vindictive on my sister and everybody who put me in there. And then it's probably the best thing that ever happened.
Absolutely, yeah. How long did it take for your kids and your family to trust you afterwards? What did you do in your life with the consistency and time that showed them that you could build that trust and that bond back up?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. I was out here for about a year before I went back to New York, and I had the year sober, and I had to make amends and go back, and I think my actions was what got the trust back. And people know, you know, when I was using, I wasn't fooling anybody, and I thought I was, and people saw a change and doing the comedy, I mean, and that's what built the trust. And you know, being on a close contact with my son, checking in with him, and you know, when you're in a sober living, I think you're monitored. So I was there 5 years, which is probably longer.
Wow, good for you.
Yeah, people used to laugh.
No, that's
It was
great,
a nice
though.
place.
You know what? It worked, obviously.
It worked, and I had a nice little room. It was a nice, setup for a while. But then you're accountable for your actions. So I think people knew that, and then the trust comes back slowly. Though it didn't come right away, and I didn't ask anybody. I just tried to work on me.
And I think that's so good for people to know, because we're in such a rush, you know, and when we get sober, it takes that time and the consistency and through our actions to show people, and they're still looking at us as we were in our addiction, and it takes them time, and we have to allow them that time to see the change instead of just being like, I'm better.
Yeah.
You know, and it takes time to heal and go through that. So I'm so glad that for you and your family, you're able to overcome that.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it never goes away either. I think I canceled an appointment with my sister once. She goes, "You're using again," because I had canceled some, but it was a legitimate cancellation. But people are going to think what they're going to think too.
I've done that a few times too, where something's happened, or maybe I've acted a certain way because I've drank too much coffee or whatever it may be. And I go, oh, do they think I'm under the influence?
Right.
Or I always think I'm in trouble. You know, even at work. Oh, come in my office. I want to talk to you. And I go in there. I'm going, what did I do? Did I do something wrong? Am I in trouble? Yeah, it takes time. What was it for you that made you start drinking and doing drugs?
Well, my mother was an alcoholic. Growing up, she was abusive and verbally abusive, physically. I said I would never do what she did. And I didn't drink for a long time. And then I guess to fit in, when I was like 18, right after high school, we started drinking. And I had my first drink was a Tom Collins at a party, and it made me feel kind of relaxed. And but I didn't drink beer because my mom drank beer at first. I said I'll be different, and but then I had the addictive behavior that she did. I didn't drink every day, and she did, and that's where I said I'm not like her. But I would binge. I'd go once a week. I'd go a day and a half, or once a month. And then I worked at a job it was a construction job, making a lot of money in the 70s in New York. And these guys introduced me to cocaine, and it wasn't addictive. It was a chic thing to do, and I tried that for about a year. They would give it free, and then about a year later, I'm buying it, you know, just to get through, go to a concert, go to a baseball game. And then one day, who I called the first was my mother. I said, I have a problem. And she knew. But she never really saw me get sober. She passed away early because she abused herself. Smoker, drinker. She died at 69. And
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
It's progressive, you know, in our mind. Just hearing what you said, it just shows that our mind is trying to keep us sick, you know, that ism, that disease, because you thought, oh, I won't drink beer.
Yeah.
Oh, and I'll just do this with the guys at the construction site. And next thing you know, it's fun until it's not fun anymore.
Right, yeah.
And it's never anything we can maintain. You know, it becomes this horrible addiction. And well, what an amazing journey you've been on, and everything you've been able to accomplish. So getting more to the funny part.
Yeah, right now.
So could you throw some jokes out there? I know you have some really good recovery jokes. Could we hear a few of them?
Well, I could say I'm in recovery. I just celebrated another year sober this year. I was a little worried I'd make it. My sponsor's Charlie Sheen, who's in the new TV show 2.5 Grams.
Oh my God.
Then I do cocaine stuff. When I did cocaine, I'd always get in trouble. I don't know why. I'd do just one line. Would start in my bedroom, go down my hallway into the neighbor's living room, and There was a study done that cocaine is as addictive as Oreo cookies. They put money for this, and I said, I don't agree. I never got up at 3 a.m, drove 150 miles for $30 of an Oreo cookie. But yeah, I do recover. I said I go to Isolators Anonymous, nobody shows up, and a couple other meetings, and somebody said, what's your trigger? I said, I'm awake. That's one of my triggers.
Oh yeah, I agree with that.
I used to go to online meetings. My screen name was Bacardi 151. I didn't take it too serious. Yeah, a lot of recovery stuff. I do some stuff about my mother now that's more on the dark side, but where she used to beat us, me and my sister, around Christmas. She'd drink and become very abusive. And one year she beat us with the Hot Wheel tracks. That was our toy.
Aww.
And we learned to block it. We'd block it out. And the next year she beat us. We had a pool table. She beat us with the pool stick. So the third year is coming around, and she goes, "What would you kids like for Christmas this year?" I'm like, "I don't know, Mom. Nerf, a restraining order, a new mother, maybe." So yeah, I do some pandemic jokes too now. I know some people don't like it. I said my girlfriend's very nervous about the pandemic. When we make love, I got to put the mask on, and the mask is of Denzel Washington.
That's a good one.
Yeah. And I just moved into a 55 and over complex. I'm like the youngest person there. When I hear my neighbors moaning, I don't know if they're having sex or just getting out of bed. So yeah, I keep writing new stuff, and
you're funny.
Yeah, thank you.
You really are funny.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Yeah, it's.
We need to laugh. You know,
we need to laugh.
Recovery's hard. There's no way around it. It is tough. It's emotional. We got to do that digging in that work, but at the same time, we have to have that balance. And we're alive. We're here for a reason. We need we need to laugh. We need to enjoy life.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone out there that's watching, that's struggling right now, and just having a hard time getting to that meeting or talking to a family member?
Yeah. Well, I was a chronic relapser for 25 years, and I just had to go to the meeting, and I'd get 9 months, and I'd relapse. I'd be so optimistic. I go, I'm Richard, and in 11 months I'll have a year. You know, just I could never get to the year. So I try to. What I would say is just stay with it. Get a good sponsor. Work the steps. Get a good support group. Go to meetings every day. You know, there's no easy way, but things get better. And if I could do it, I always thought I didn't even fit in AA. I always felt like I was different, even in AA. Some people have little groups, and I'm kind of an introvert. You know, I don't really reach out, but I find a group that you feel comfortable with. Find the meetings you feel comfortable with, and if you keep working on you, things get better. You know, I used to focus on everybody else, and they say resentment is the number one cause of relapse. I actually think it's drinking is the number one cause. But I try not to. It's a spiritual and mental condition which made me drink. It wasn't the alcohol. It was hurt and fear and suppressing a lot of stuff that I didn't want to deal with. And being sober isn't always easy. You know, we got to deal with stuff on life's terms, but it's a lot better than what it was. And I have good relationships today, and I could travel and do comedy, and life is so much better, you know, and I wish I got it earlier. Like some new people, if you're young, get it. You got so much life ahead. You know, don't waste it. Yes. And a lot of people I know have not come back. They disappear, some die. That's the reality of this.
Very well said. Where can people find you?
Well, I'm here at the studio with Jenny.
Come on.
We're somewhere in Santa Ana. I'll be here for the next week. You can find me at Facebook, Richard Weiss. I don't know, there's so many of us. There's doctors and lawyers, and I'm the guy that tells jokes. But my website is standupguycomedy.com. You could go there and find me. And yeah, you can email me from there. All my information is there. Facebook, Instagram is Weiss Cracks. I have a comic book that I wrote based as a stand-up doing comedy, which was quite successful. I've sold that at shows, and it's got a 5-star rating on Amazon.
Right on.
And I've only rated it 3 times myself. No, but I'm kind of proud of that. And I work with an artist from the Netherlands. And
I looked through it. It's amazing.
Yeah,
the artwork
thank you.
is really, really good.
Yeah. And I had to reel him in because some of his cartoons went over the top, and I had to say, no, we don't get that crazy. But it was a good meeting, and he believed in me, and he goes, I want to do this cartoon about you. I didn't want to put me in there, and he goes, I want to do a cartoon about a stand-up comedian. So that's what we started to do. And, Yeah, just a lot of gifts from being sober that I would not have had. You know, even being here today, the people in my life. Yeah, I got to be grateful because I forget how bad it was, and I never want to go back there.
Me neither. Well, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
And being of service and spending some time with us. You're a remarkable man.
Well, thank you.
And you're funny.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Even at 4:30. And
You're good.
I'm funnier at 8, but yeah, this is okay. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you next time.
Water.
Bye.
It's water in here.